The swamp was breathless. A thick gray mist clung to the water like a suffocating blanket, muting the world around them. Sergeant Cole had patrolled the Blackwood marshlands for 7 years, but he had never felt a silence quite like this. Beside him, Titan, his massive German Shepherd partner, stopped dead in his tracks. Titan was 75 pounds of disciplined muscle, a dog who had taken down armed felons without flinching. But now, he wasn't acting like a police dog. He was acting afraid. "What is it, buddy?" Cole whispered, his hand instinctively resting on his holster. Titan didn't look at him. His ears were pinned back against his skull, and a low, vibrating growl rumbled deep in his throat. He wasn't looking at the trees. He was staring at the muddy bank of the river, where the reeds grew tall and thick. Cole squinted through the fog. At first, he saw nothing but trash and driftwood washed up by the recent storms. But then, he saw what Titan had locked onto. Half buried in the thick black mud was an old industrial refrigerator. It was rusted shut, lying on its back like a coffin, wrapped tightly in heavy iron chains. It looked like it had been dragged there, hidden on purpose. "Leave it, Titan," Cole commanded softly, thinking it was just illegal dumping. But the German Shepherd ignored him. For the first time in their partnership, Titan broke the heel command. He lunged forward, splashing into the shallow mud, barking with a frantic, high-pitched urgency that made the hair on Cole's neck stand up. This wasn't an aggressive bark. It was a plea. Titan reached the metal box and started clawing at it. His nails screeched against the rusted steel. He bit at the heavy chains, whining, looking back at Cole with wide, desperate eyes. Cole stepped closer, the mud sucking at his boots. The air around the refrigerator felt unnaturally cold, even for the swamp. "Easy, boy, easy," Cole murmured, reaching for the dog's collar. Then he heard it. It was faint, barely a whisper over the sound of the wind. Thump, thump. Cole froze. The sound wasn't coming from the woods. It was coming from inside the chained refrigerator. Titan barked again, louder this time, slamming his paws against the metal lid. "Let them out! Let them out!" his body language screamed. Cole dropped to his knees in the mud. He pressed his ear against the cold, rusted metal. Silence for 3 seconds. Then, a scratch. A weak, desperate scratch against the insulation from the inside. Someone, or something, was trapped in there, and they were running out of air. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7, Cole yelled into his radio, his voice cracking. "I have a situation at Sector 4. Possible kidnapping victim trapped in a sealed container, requesting fire and rescue immediately." Static. Just like the fog, the radio signal was dead. Cole looked at the heavy chains wrapped 3 times around the box. He looked at the heavy padlock, rusted but solid. He didn't have bolt cutters. He didn't have time. The scratching inside was getting slower. "Okay, Titan, stand back," Cole shouted, drawing his baton. He knew he couldn't break the lock, but the hinges were corroded. If he could shatter the rusted hinges, maybe he could pry the lid open from the back. He raised the steel baton and brought it down with everything he had. Clang! The metal groaned, but held. Titan whined, pacing in tight, frantic circles, his nose pressed to the seam of the lid, sniffing deeply. "I'm trying, buddy, I'm trying." Cole gritted his teeth. He struck again. Clang! And again. The rust flaked away, revealing a crack in the hinge. From inside the box, a soft, muffled cry echoed out. It wasn't human. It was high-pitched, terrified, and heartbreakingly small. Cole's heart hammered against his ribs. He jammed the end of his baton into the crack of the hinge and pulled. His muscles burned. The metal screeched, resisting him. "Come on," he roared. With a sickening snap, the hinge gave way. The heavy lid popped up just an inch. Titan immediately jammed his snout into the gap, trying to force it open, whining uncontrollably. The smell that wafted out hit Cole like a physical punch. It was the smell of fear, damp fur, and stale air. "Get back!" Cole pulled the dog away and grabbed the edge of the lid with both hands. He heaved, his boots sliding in the mud. The heavy door groaned, fought him for a second, and then fell open with a loud crash. Cole grabbed his flashlight and shone it into the dark, hollow belly of the refrigerator. What he saw made him drop to his knees in absolute horror. The beam of the flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing a scene of absolute nightmare. Inside the rusted metal box, huddled together on a pile of filthy, damp rags, was a litter of puppies. There were 5 of them, but there was no movement, no whimpering, just a pile of small, silent bodies. The inside walls of the refrigerator were covered in long, frantic scratches. The steel was stained with blood where their tiny claws had torn until they could tear no more. They had tried to dig their way out until the very end. No, God, no. Cole choked out, his vision blurring. Titan let out a sound that wasn't a bark or a growl. It was a mournful, broken howl that echoed across the silent swamp. The big German shepherd pushed his head into the box, frantically licking the cold, still faces of the pups. He was looking for a heartbeat. He was looking for hope. Cole reached in, his hands shaking. The first puppy was cold, stiff, the second the same. A wave of nausea and rage washed over him. Whoever did this hadn't just abandoned them, they had entombed them. They had wanted them to suffer in the dark. "I'm sorry," Cole whispered, tears stinging his eyes. "I'm so sorry." Suddenly, Titan froze. He nudged the smallest puppy, a black and tan ball of fur at the very bottom of the pile. He nudged it again, harder, then looked at Cole and barked sharply. "Here, this one." Cole dropped his flashlight and scooped up the tiny body. It was limp, fragile, and freezing cold. But then a twitch. A faint, gasping cough rattled in the puppy's chest. "He's alive," Cole gasped. "Titan, he's alive!" He didn't waste a second. Cole unzipped his tactical jacket and shoved the puppy against his chest, right against his skin to share his body heat. He grabbed the radio again, but then threw it down. Still no signal. "We have to move," he told Titan. "Now!" They ran. Cole sprinted through the mud, his boots slipping, his lungs burning, clutching the dying puppy against his heart. Titan ran ahead, clearing the path, looking back every few seconds to make sure his partner was still coming. The swamp seemed endless. Brambles tore at Cole's uniform, and the mist tried to disorient them, but he didn't slow down. He could feel the puppy's heartbeats, slow, irregular, fading. Thump, pause, thump. "Stay with me," Cole panted, stumbling over a root but catching himself. "Don't you quit on me now." They burst out of the tree line and onto the gravel service road where the patrol SUV was parked. Cole ripped the door open and cranked the engine. He blasted the heat to the maximum setting. "In, go." Titan leaped into the passenger seat. Usually, he sat tall and alert. Today, he curled up instantly on the center console, pressing his warm, fur-covered body against Cole's chest, sandwiching the puppy between them. Cole slammed the car into gear. Gravel sprayed behind them as the SUV roared onto the highway. He flipped the sirens. The lights flashed blue and red against the gray sky, clearing the road ahead. "Hang on, little guy," Cole whispered, one hand on the steering wheel, the other pressing the puppy closer. "Just a few more miles." Titan whined softly, resting his heavy head on the puppy's back. He wasn't acting like a police dog anymore. He was acting like a father. But as the speedometer climbed past 80, the tiny heartbeat against Cole's chest missed a beat. Then another. The puppy went still. "Don't you die on me," Cole shouted, his voice raw. He kept one hand on the steering wheel, swerving around a slow-moving truck, while his other hand rubbed the puppy's tiny chest, trying to stimulate a breath, trying to spark a life. Titan barked at a sharp, commanding sound directed right at the limp bundle of fur. "Wake up." Cole drifted the SUV into the parking lot of the emergency veterinary clinic, jumping the curb. The tire shrieked against the asphalt as he slammed on the brakes. He didn't wait for the vehicle to stop completely. He kicked the door open, cradling the puppy like a football, and sprinted toward the glass doors. "Help! I need help now!" The lobby was full, but the sight of a uniformed officer covered in mud, holding a lifeless animal, parted the crowd like the Red Sea. Dr. Bennett, the lead trauma vet, rushed out from the back. She took one look at the gray gums of the puppy and didn't ask questions. "Trauma 1, Code Blue!" she yelled, snatching the puppy from Cole's arms. Cole tried to follow, but a nurse stepped in front of him. "Sir, you can't." But Titan pushed past the nurse. He didn't growl, he didn't snap. He simply walked with the unstoppable force of a tank, following the doctor who held the puppy. The nurse looked at Cole. "He's my partner," Cole said, breathless. "He's not leaving." Inside the trauma room, it was controlled chaos. The puppy lay on a heated metal table, looking impossibly small under the bright surgical lights. Dr. Bennett was performing CPR with 2 fingers, compressing the tiny ribcage. "No pulse," she announced. "Body temp is critical. Get me epinephrine, now." Cole stood in the corner, his hands gripping his tactical vest. He felt helpless. He was trained to fight bad guys, to breach doors, to handle riots. He wasn't trained for this. Titan sat directly beside the table. He was trembling, not from fear, but from the sheer effort of holding himself back. His eyes were locked on the doctor's hands. Every time the puppy's body jerked from the compressions, Titan's ears twitched. "Come on, little one," Dr. Bennett whispered. "Come on." The monitor showed a flat green line. A long, high-pitched tone filled the room, the sound of death. "One more dose," Dr. Bennett ordered. "Push it." Seconds ticked by. They felt like hours. The silence in the room was heavier than the swamp fog. Cole closed his eyes. He thought about the 4 other puppies in that box, the scratches on the walls, the darkness they died in. It can't end like this, not for the last one. Then, a sound. Beep. Cole's eyes snapped open. Beep, beep. On the monitor, the flat line spiked. A rhythm. Weak, erratic, but there. The puppy's chest heaved a tiny, ragged gasp for air. "We have a heartbeat," Dr. Bennett exhaled, slumping her shoulders slightly. "He's back." Titan let out a long, shuddering breath and rested his chin on the edge of the metal table, right next to the puppy's paw. He licked the tiny leg once, a gentle, rough stroke of his tongue. The puppy didn't wake up, but his breathing steadied. The heat from the table and the fluids pumping into his veins were working. "Doctor," Bennett looked at Cole, wiping sweat from her forehead. "That was close, Sergeant. Another minute in that cold, and he wouldn't have made it." She looked at the scratches on the puppy's paws, the mud matted in his fur, and the grim expression on Cole's face. "This wasn't an accident, was it?" she asked softly. Cole's face hardened. The relief was fading, replaced by a cold, burning anger. He looked at the scars on the puppy's body. He thought about the chains, the padlock, the calculated cruelty of burying them alive. "No," Cole said, his voice low and dangerous. "It wasn't an accident. It was a disposal." He reached out and stroked Titan's head. The dog didn't look up. His watch over the puppy had begun. "Document everything, Doc," Cole said, turning toward the door. "Every scratch, every bruise, the type of chain marks, everything." "Where are you going?" Dr. Bennett asked. Cole paused at the door, his silhouette framed by the hallway light. "Titan stays here to protect him," Cole said. "I'm going back to the swamp. Whoever did this left tracks, and I'm going to find them before the rain washes them away." The storm finally broke. Rain lashed down on the Blackwood marshlands, turning the already soft ground into a soup of black mud. Sergeant Cole stood alone by the rusted refrigerator, water dripping from the brim of his hat. He had to work fast. The rain was erasing the crime scene. He knelt by the heavy tire tracks that led away from the riverbank. They were deep, wide, and aggressive, the tread pattern of a heavy-duty pickup truck. "Mud Terrain TA," Cole muttered, snapping a picture with his waterproof camera. "Custom tires, expensive." He followed the tracks. They didn't lead back to the main highway. They cut a sharp left, tearing through the tall grass, heading deeper into the private, wooded sector of the county. This wasn't a random dumper from the city. This was a local. Cole got back into his patrol SUV. He didn't turn on the sirens this time. He turned off his headlights. He drove slowly, crawling along the narrow service road, following the trail of churned-up earth. The rain drummed against the roof like bullets. A mile down the road, the woods opened up into a small, overgrown clearing. There, sitting in front of a dilapidated trailer, was a dark blue pickup truck. Cole stopped his vehicle 100 yards back, hidden by the tree line. He raised his binoculars. The truck was covered in fresh swamp mud. The tires matched the tracks perfectly. But it was what was in the truck bed that made Cole's blood turn to ice. A spool of heavy industrial iron chain, the exact same type wrapped around the refrigerator. And next to it, a bright yellow box for a brand new heavy-duty padlock. "Got you," Cole whispered. He reached for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. I have a suspect vehicle located at the end of Old Miller Road, requesting backup. Static." "Dispatch?" Nothing. The storm was interfering with the tower, or maybe the trees were just too thick here. Cole looked at the trailer. A light flickered on inside. A shadow moved past the window. He knew protocol. Wait for backup. Do not engage alone. But then he remembered the scratches inside that metal box. He remembered the 4 frozen bodies. He remembered the faint heartbeat of the survivor fighting for air back at the clinic. If this guy heard the engine, he might run. He might destroy evidence, or worse, he might have more animals in there. Cole unholstered his service weapon. He checked the safety. "No waiting," he said to the empty car. He stepped out into the rain. Without Titan by his side, he felt lighter, but also exposed. He missed the reassuring weight of his partner, but he channeled Titan's protective rage. Cole moved silently through the rain, using the thunder to mask his footsteps. He crept up to the window of the trailer and peered inside. The inside was filthy. Beer cans, trash. A man sat at a small kitchen table, his back to the window. He was watching TV and laughing. Cole moved to the front door. It was slightly ajar, the lock broken. He kicked the door wide open, leveling his weapon. "Police, show me your hands!" Cole roared, his voice booming over the sound of the storm. The man jumped, knocking his chair over. He spun around, eyes wide. He was big, wearing a greasy mechanic's shirt. "Whoa, what is this?" the man stammered, raising his hands. "On the ground, now!" Cole advanced, kicking the chair aside. "What did I do? I didn't do nothing." "I found the fridge," Cole spat the words out. The color drained from the man's face instantly. He didn't look confused anymore. He looked guilty. And then his eyes darted to the corner of the room, toward a shotgun leaning against the wall. "Don't even think about it," Cole warned, stepping closer. But the man didn't reach for the gun. Instead, he grinned, a sick, twisted smile. "You found the box, huh?" the man sneered. "Did you find the other one?" Cole froze. "What?" "The other box," the man laughed, a cruel, wheezing sound. "I didn't have enough change for both, so I threw the second one in the river, downstream." Cole's stomach dropped. There were more. The man lunged, not for the gun, but for the back door. Cole didn't hesitate. He didn't think about procedure or backup. He thought about the silence inside that first refrigerator. As the man scrambled toward the back door, Cole launched himself forward. He hit the suspect at full speed, tackling him through the open door frame. They crashed onto the muddy ground outside, rolling in the filth and rain. The man was heavy and desperate, swinging wild punches. A fist connected with Cole's jaw, snapping his head back, tasting blood. But Cole didn't stop. He didn't feel the pain. He grabbed the man's arm, twisting it behind his back with a force fueled by pure rage. "Where is it?" Cole roared, pressing the man's face into the mud. "Where is the second box?" "I don't know. I threw it. I just threw it," the man screamed, spitting out dirt. Cole yanked his handcuffs from his belt. Click, click. He dragged the man to the metal railing of the trailer's porch and cuffed him tightly to the support beam. The man wasn't going anywhere. "If that box is empty," Cole growled, leaning in close, his eyes wild in the lightning flash. "You pray the judge has mercy, because I won't." Cole turned and ran. "Downstream," the man had said. Cole sprinted along the slippery riverbank, his flashlight beam cutting through the torrential rain. The river was rising fast, swollen by the storm. The black water churned violently, carrying debris and logs. "Where are you?" Cole panted, scanning the surface. "Show me." "Come on, show me." 50 yards down, he saw it, caught in a tangle of dead tree roots near the bank. Bobbing just below the surface was a plastic storage cooler. It was wrapped in duct tape, weighted down, struggling against the current. It was sinking. Cole didn't check the depth. He didn't take off his boots. He dove straight into the freezing, murky water. The cold shock hit him like a hammer, sucking the air from his lungs. The current grabbed him immediately, trying to pull him toward the center of the river. Cole kicked hard, fighting the water, clawing his way toward the roots. He reached the cooler. It was heavy. Water was already seeping inside. He tried to lift it, but the roots had snagged the duct tape. It was stuck. "No, no, no!" Cole shouted, water splashing into his mouth. He pulled his knife from his belt. With freezing fingers, he slashed at the roots, then at the tape. The plastic was slippery. The river surged, pushing Cole's head under. He surfaced, gasping, and slashed again. Snap! The cooler broke free. Cole wrapped one arm around it and kicked toward the shore with everything he had left. He dragged himself up the muddy bank, collapsing on the grass, heaving for breath. He sliced the tape open. He ripped the lid off. Inside, water had already filled the bottom 3 inches. Floating in the cold water were 4 kittens. 3 were motionless. One, a tiny calico, was clinging to the side of the plastic, head barely above the rising water, mewing silently. Cole stared at them, his chest heaving, rain mixing with the river water dripping from his face. "Not again," he whispered. He started pulling them out one by one, laying them on the grass. He started compressions on the first one. 1, 2, 3. Breathe. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. He moved to the second. Nothing. He looked at the tiny calico shivering in the grass, the only survivor. And then, headlights cut through the darkness. A siren wailed in the distance. Finally, back up. But as the blue lights drew closer, Cole realized something. He wasn't just tired, he was dizzy. The world was tilting. He looked down at his side. The dark water on his uniform wasn't just river water, it was warm. The suspect had been holding a screwdriver when they fell. Cole hadn't felt it in the adrenaline, but now, looking at the dark stain spreading across his ribcage, he felt the sharp, stinging burn. He looked at the surviving kitten, then at the approaching lights. "We got you," Cole whispered, his vision tunneling. "We got you." And then the ground rushed up to meet him. Beep, beep, beep. The sound was rhythmic, steady, and annoying. Cole opened his eyes. The harsh fluorescent lights of a hospital room stung his vision. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in his side pinned him back down to the mattress. "Easy, hero," a gruff voice said from the corner. It was Chief Miller. He was sitting in a plastic chair, holding Cole's muddy campaign hat in his hands. "The doctor said the screwdriver missed your lung by an inch," Miller said, standing up. "You lost a lot of blood, Cole. You scared us." Cole blinked, the memory of the freezing river rushing back. The kitten, the one in the cooler, did it make it? Miller smiled, a rare sight for the stoic chief. "Yeah, the little calico made it. So did the puppy." Cole let out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for 2 days. "And the guy?" "In custody." Miller's face darkened. "We found 3 more buried freezers on his property. He won't be seeing daylight ever again. You made sure of that." Cole closed his eyes for a moment. Justice was served. But his work wasn't done. "I need to see them," Cole said, gritting his teeth as he swung his legs over the side of the bed. "Doc said you need rest," Miller protested. "I can rest when I know my partner is okay," Cole replied, standing up shakily. An hour later, Cole walked into the veterinary clinic, leaning heavily on a cane the hospital had given him. The waiting room was quiet. But as soon as he stepped through the double doors into the recovery ward, he heard it. A sharp, joyful bark. Titan was there. He wasn't in a kennel. He was lying on a dog bed in the corner of the room, and curled up right between his front paws was the puppy. When Titan saw Cole, he stood up, his tail wagging so hard his entire body shook. He didn't run to Cole, though. He looked at Cole, then nudged the puppy, as if to say, "Look, I kept him safe." Cole limped over and sank to his knees, ignoring the pain in his ribs. He wrapped his arms around Titan's neck, burying his face in the thick fur. "Good boy," Cole whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You did good." Dr. Bennett walked in, holding a small bundle and a towel. "The calico kitten. We were wondering when you'd show up," she smiled. "Titan hasn't let anyone but me near these two. He's been guarding them like they're his own." Cole looked at the mismatched family. A battered police dog, a survivor puppy with scars on his paws, and a tiny kitten pulled from a river. They were all a little broken. They were all survivors. "So," Dr. Bennett asked softly, "what happens to them now?" "They'll go to the shelter once they're strong enough, but—" Cole looked at the puppy, who was now awake and chewing softly on Titan's ear. He looked at the kitten purring in the doctor's arms. Then he looked at Titan, who watched him with those intelligent, knowing eyes. Titan had chosen them, and Cole never argued with his partner. "No shelter," Cole said, scratching the puppy's chin. "They're already home." "You're taking them?" Dr. Bennett raised an eyebrow. "2 trauma cases and a police dog? We'll figure it out," Cole smiled. "What should we call them?" He looked at the puppy, thinking of the cold metal box, the silence, and the strength it took to survive the darkness. "Rusty," Cole said, "for the fridge." He looked at the kitten. "And River." Dr. Bennett nodded, placing River down next to Rusty. The kitten immediately huddled into Titan's fur. The huge German shepherd sighed contentedly, resting his chin over his new pack. The nightmare in the swamp was over. The cold was gone. Outside, the sun was finally breaking through the storm clouds, casting a warm, golden light through the clinic window. Cole sat on the floor with his family, bruised and bandaged, but for the first time in a long time, completely at peace. Sometimes, the things we rescue end up rescuing us.